Hey Lizards, Gizmo here. I wanted to share some of the cigars we'll be smoking in April and May so you could smoke along with us if you'd like. For Cubans, we got Cohiba Siglo II, El Rey del Mundo Choix Suprême, and Trinidad Colonialis coming up. And for New Worlds, we've got Padron 2000 Maduro, My Father the Judge, and Davidoff Late Hour in Churchill, with much, much more to come. Have a suggestion? Email us, loungelizardspod@gmail.com. That's loungelizardspod@gmail.com. And now let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo, and tonight I'm joined by Rooster, Puba, Senator Pagoda, and Bam Bam. And our plan is to smoke a cigar, drink some scotch, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 22nd official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a Cuban cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you our formal lizard rating. Senator shares some history on Dalmore. We'll discuss Habanos' approach to their smaller marcas, and we'll discuss the reality of the Cuban cigar shortage, all among a variety of other things for the next hour. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we pair the El Rey del Mundo Choix Suprême with 12-year aged Dalmore Scotch. A Cuban Hermosos tonight on the pod. The Schwa Supreme, one of two cigars that El Rey del Mundo makes. It's a 48 ring gauge by 5 inches. I thought this was a Robusto, boys, and I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. So let's cut this thing and see what we're getting on the cold draw and the wrapper. So I've never had this cigar. I know a few of the other guys in the room have. Puba certainly has. Rooster has. Have you, Senator?
I had one, but in less than optimal smoking conditions, so I didn't get to enjoy it as fully as I would have liked.
The cold draw is delicious on this thing.
Really?
Can't wait for you to try that.
Yeah, I'm very excited about
Wow.
it. I've heard amazing things about this cigar.
I mean, I'm getting sweetness right off the bat.
I'm mainly getting cedar on mine.
I'm getting cedar, but a little sweetness like Bam's talking about. And if you smell the wrapper, you can even get that sweetness.
What's funny is I feel like I'm tasting cedar as if it was sitting in a cabinet box, a cedar cabinet box. It was in a cardboard. It's in a cardboard dress box. So
Who's had this in the room? Rooster?
Rooster and Puba.
Booba. Ah, okay.
This is that time delay.
I'm sorry.
Gizmo just said that.
It's all right.
Okay.
All right, boys, let's light this thing. The El Rey del Mundo Choix Supreme from Cuba. Again, 48 ring gauge by 5 inches long. I would say revered cigar in the Habanos catalog by experienced smokers, and not terribly easy to get your hands on it.
I'd also say a hidden secret.
Yes.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I think most of us in this room, if we even just went back a few years, we would not have heard of this cigar. It's not like it's not a D4, it's not an Epi2, which is nice because I think we're trying to share with listeners something that they probably don't encounter very often that they maybe might want to pick up.
Oh, fantastic on the light. Great draw. Great smoke output and delicious. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is from a March 21 box. So these are under a year old, which I know normally I think we would kind of shudder at being under a year old on smoking a cigar, but I went off the recommendation of some folks I saw online saying how well these are smoking young. So I think it was worth a shot.
I don't know what to say. It's so good.
Yeah, Bam Bam shaking his head at me with a smile on his face.
This is such a good cigar.
Very good on the light. I
Wow.
agree.
Yeah, what are you guys getting?
A little honey, maybe.
Yeah.
Creamy.
I dare to say a Bam Bam word, a little citrusy, like a little fruit. I don't know what it is.
Getting some floral, but not, I don't know about citrus. Definitely some, it's sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet, honey, a little bit of floral.
Is everybody getting good draw on this thing? Everybody getting good smoke output?
Perfect.
Draw.
Fantastic.
Puba, how's yours?
I can't tell yet. I'm having a little bit of an issue here.
I have two more with me. Just I anticipated potential problems.
I'll take the next one.
Mm-hmm. You want to try a different one?
No, just give it a second.
Okay.
Before we, I got a question.
Yeah.
What do these cost?
You know what? I should have prepared. I'm
I-
sorry.
I think they're a bit like, well, 21. I would say like about between 15, 17 in that
Wow.
range, right?
Yeah, I think you're about right.
Tough to get these, or are they readily
They're not
available?
easy to get. This is a
Mm.
this is a marca from Cuba, and Puba can talk a little bit about this as well. But it's one of their would you call it a regional?
Well, no, I'd call it a
local?
boutique. I'd call
Yeah.
it a portfolio brand or one of their boutique brands in the Habanos S.A. catalog. It's like a San Luis Rey or Coaba,
Juan Lopez.
Juan Lopez,
Yeah.
boutique brand or portfolio brand that's not a global brand. So that they don't make as many cigars. The distribution isn't quite as wide. So it's supposedly the brand was created in partnership with Sancho Panza by a German businessman, a gentleman by the name of Emilio Olmsted in 1848. They named the brand Rey del Mundo, which means King of the World in Spanish.
That's a very cool name, by the way.
King of the World. And then around 1882, a Spanish businessman named Antonio Alones, who's not to be confused with the Antonio Alones, who's the brother of Ramon Alones, who were the brothers who founded and developed the Ramon Alones marca.
You mentioned that on the RAS episode that there were two Antonios.
Yeah, it's just they had just happened coincidentally to have the same name.
Okay.
So they registered it and re-registered the name after after Olmsted's death, and then they went on to just produce some really great cigars up until the Revolution. I mean, there's not much there in terms that's really interesting and worth discussion.
Okay.
It's not like this brand has a storied history, like Partagas, where you have rivals and there's affairs going on and people are dying and
There's no espionage.
There's no espionage. It's not like as interesting as like let's say Bolivar's history or something
or
like
Upman,
that,
yeah.
or Upman. It lost some popularity at some point, and its status, being at the forefront of some of Cuban cigars. But despite that, it's kind of come back in the past 20 years or so and has really made its way to the forefront with aficionados in the know. They make two standard production cigars, I believe, the Hermosos and the Demitas.
Yep.
And they also, when their other vitolas they want to release or special blends, perhaps, they'll do some regionals.
You know what's interesting about that, and I learned this a couple of weeks ago, and it's just so obvious to me. I think Senator and I were talking about this at the time, but it's interesting that you'll never see a Monte Cristo, Partagas, Cohiba, Upman, or Romeo. You'll never see any of those come out as a regional. Those are global brands, according to Habanos. They'll never put a regional release out under those, just limited editions, but never a regional specific to Mexico or Spain or whatever. So that's pretty, El Rey del Mundo is used a lot in those circumstances, like you said, Juan Lopez is, Sancho Panza, other, of the smaller marcas. And I think that's very cool about these, that there's only two regular production cigars in this line.
Yeah, there were more, of course, at one time, but like many of the boutique and portfolio brands within the Habanos S.A. catalog, those vitolas were discontinued.
I wonder why they would discontinue them. And I've never heard of a cigar company.
We've talked about it before. Yeah. I mean, there was a big quality problem, which is well known about what they call the dark period, which I believe ran from about 1998, I believe, until around 2000. And they were making too many cigars and too quickly and during the cigar boom, and there was a lot of bad quality coming out. So Cuba Tobacco, Habanos S.A., they said, we're gonna have to focus back on what we do well and do make less vitolas across the catalog and do better with less shapes and focus a little bit more and bring the quality back. And they've brought the quality back over the last 20 years.
Sure.
Because it was a problem for a while.
And you know what's interesting too? You're talking about that time period. From that period of like 99-ish to about 2010, they canceled, I want to say, 10, 12 other cigars in regular production that El Rey del Mundo made.
Oh, wow.
You know, the 2000s were not a good...
And just never reintroduced them ever
they're
again.
gone. They're
Wow.
gone. So they use this, like we said, for regionals. And
It streamlines. Think about it. It makes sense. It streamlines distribution for the company. You know, it's all one company.
Yeah.
that oversees all this production. So they have to go with where the demand lies. They tried to make some decisions. Now, a lot of it's unfortunate that some of these beloved shapes aren't available, but I guess they have to make decisions.
Right.
This is so going back to the flavor on this thing, about 3/4 of an inch in here on mine. It's creamy.
It's delicious.
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 One word, wow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
This is outstanding. I mean, I'm getting the sweetness that we were talking about that we started with, honey. There's a creaminess. The smoke, it's the velvety.
The
It
combustion
like
is great.
coats your mouth.
It's like it has an icing on it that's coating your mouth or something.
Absolutely. And you also get that dried fruit. I feel like when you I'm blown away by this cigar.
Me too.
I just can't believe how good it is for being that it's so fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less than a year old.
It's incredible.
Box is 21.
If he didn't
Yeah,
say
March
that this
21.
was a 21 box, I never would have guessed.
Right.
So what's also unusual, several sources I've read on this cigar, they all say the same thing. It starts off very mild, according to the description that I read, and it launches into flavor and gets very intense. I see the opposite. I'm getting really good, I'd say medium, almost full flavor right off the bat.
So on the light, I had some issues
Yep.
where it was like
Iffy.
it didn't start off on the light for me spectacular, but that sometimes happens with cigars. Sometimes that initial, for whatever reason, I could have lit it with a match. Maybe
How is it now?
Now it's like settled in, and it's much better. And the notes that Senator is talking about, the signature kind of notes, the dried fruit, and some of those sweeter notes are kind of coming through that are signature for the cigar.
This is like dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
It
sweet.
really is.
I'm just amazed.
It's unbelievable.
Sweet and creamy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fruity. It's
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's a medium-bodied cigar.
I feel
So
like
by the way, I wanted to just answer Rooster's question. I paid $3.49 for this box of 25. So these worked out to $13.50 a stick.
That's a steal.
it's a
Fantastic.
great price.
I've seen it for about 300
Yeah.
on some other sites. I
Yeah.
was just looking.
And I think the prices
So-
are just, jumping up 10, 15%.
I urge the
Right.
procurement managers of this group to buy, and we will reimburse you.
For the record,
Just
I-
launch into it.
Gizmo and I tried recently to
We
get another
tried.
box of these. Someone beat us to
Yeah,
them.
we tried.
I'll text you a site that has it. $2.99.
Oh, here we go.
Cuban
I love,
Lu-
by
is
the
it-
way, how
hold
he
on,
tells us this
Hold on, I know what it
after
is.
I bought them.
I know what it is. Is it Cuban lose? It is, isn't
You're
it?
right on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I caught you.
And with like as these settle in and as they rest and as they start to mature more, like those flavor notes really accelerate. This cigar is really good if you put it down for a little while. Like all those notes just like accelerate and become more concentrated and more complex. So this cigar is really their flagship cigar, standard production cigar, and people really like it.
Yeah, I can certainly understand why. It's a wonderful little smoke.
It's worth pursuing.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Cubans now. It's taken me a while, but this smoke is fantastic.
You say that you're a believer now. That's an interesting comment because we've all gone through that journey, right? Of going from New Worlds because they're obviously accessible everywhere to finding Cubans and procuring them and getting them, smoking them. What has kind of flicked that domino finally for you? That's like you're totally bought into Cubans.
Yeah, just to summarize, I used to smoke a lot of, in fact, I still do a lot of bolder, like strong flavored cigars. And every time I would try a Cuban, I thought it was oftentimes very flavorless and it just didn't hit my palate the way I would anticipate, right? Because there's always this excitement that you're going to be smoking a Cuban, and then when I would have it, I didn't feel the same excitement. I, felt it was, they were good, but I think, during this journey, with you guys, I've tasted a lot of Cuban cigars, which I've really begun to enjoy, and I can tell you that this is one cigar I've started enjoying from the very light. It was, the sweetness, the creaminess, and really enjoying it. This is fantastic.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, the other 18 cigars in this box are completely accounted for. I don't know what to tell you. You're out.
Listen, we'll bid up. We'll bid up.
They've disappeared.
I would disappear these into the back of your humidor.
Oh,
and
yeah,
look
that's
at 'em
exactly what I'm
in
gonna
a
do.
year.
I know exactly how we're going to get them. We're going to corner the Lucy market, so you can't buy any more Lucy's, and we're going to start trading.
I'll trade you Lucy's for
You know,
these.
the thing with these is, you can always, when you see them pop up, because they kind of pop up and then they go away. They pop up and then they go away. When they do pop up, they only stay around for a little while and they go down because people do really like them and people want a box in their humidor because it's a nice change of pace from the global brands that are so beloved. It's one of those cigars that when you're doing your loadout, what I call a loadout, and you're kind of going through your sticks and you're like, I'm going to smoke another Partagas. You kind of ask yourself, well, yeah, I'm going to smoke one Partagas tonight, but then what else can I throw in the mix that's gonna change things up? And this is like that change up that you may not smoke like every day, but you're gonna, not that you wouldn't, they're just not as available and as ubiquitous as some other things. So you pop it in, you pop it in here and there.
And I don't think they make nearly as many sticks as a Partagas and Upmint, right?
No, they just don't.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
They're harder to come by.
They're a little harder to come by. So you kind of judiciously, when you load them out, it's like one of those cigars. Like, okay, I'll take one this month. I'll take one or two, and and pop them out. And depending on how many boxes, how crazy you want to go.
Which is, I think, the way that it's going right now, I think we're all going to be chasing a couple of boxes of these around. But
for sure.
Another thing I noticed as soon as Gizmo handed these out, the cigar is rounded. You would not notice by looking at it that it came out of a dress box. And obviously, I'm not a huge dress box fan. And I just think they've done something well in that clearly these are not jammed and packed in that box. They gave it enough space that it looks exactly as it should, and it's smoking really well.
It is.
I mean, the draw's fantastic. The smoke output's great. I've had no issue.
Yeah, so interesting observation. So to build on that a little bit, and we talked about this before we started to record just momentarily, and there's something about this Hermosos. There's people, mutual friends of ours, who talk about this Hermosos Vitola, which is not exactly a Robusto. It's 48 ring gauge, right?
by 5 inch.
By 5 inch. So there's San Luis Rey makes the Regios. There's people who believe that this particular size, the construction of it, for whatever, there's magic in the Hermosos. That there's some sort of magic. Like look at everybody's burn. It's like razor sharp.
Yeah, it's razor sharp.
Yep.
And the draw is really good. And when you look at the foot, like when I pulled, when Giz came around and goes, take one, I grabbed it. And then I immediately, the first thing I look at when I grab a cigar is I look at the foot, just to look at the leaves to see how it's rolled. And the fault, like it was perfectly, like you could see the thing before I even cut it. I knew the cigar was probably going to draw well because it would just the foot looks so good, So there's something about it. There's something about this size people hypothesize about.
Well, I think they're certainly right. And to Senator's point, when I was pulling this out of the dress box, sometimes when you get a box of, Lucy's, obviously Partagas, they're a little difficult to get out. Like they're really stuffed in there. And if you take a couple out, putting them back in is a bit of a challenge. This just came right out. They were not stuffed in there.
Interesting.
It's like,
They may use like a box that they use for Robustos.
Right.
They relabel it.
And I think about it, it's the same cardboard dress box, but there's just a little bit more
Room.
Yeah, a little
in
less
there.
tobacco.
Because think about it, it's all one company. They're making these dress boxes probably the same way with a couple different vendors, and then they're labeling
Slap a sticker on them
and
and go.
then they put the artwork on them and everything, but they probably just go in a Robusto box. I don't know that for a fact, but it may give them a little bit more room to
Breathe.
live.
Well, they're certainly still round, which I haven't seen out of a dress box, So, all right, let's try our Scotch pairing tonight, gentlemen. So this is the second Dalmore we've done. And Senator, tell us a little about what we have in our hands.
So this is Dalmore 12. This is my first time having this after the Dalmore cigar malt. I think everyone said was one of the best single malts we've ever had. I figured, all right, let's see it. Get the full range of Dalmore. So start with their 12. It's aged in ex-bourbon barrels and ex-sherry casks, which is like a lot of stuff we drink. But interesting, I was looking up a little bit about the brand history. We didn't actually talk at all about Dalmore's history when we reviewed the cigar malt. And it's very fascinating because they have a royal history. So Dalmore's heritage dates back to 1263. It was in that year that Colin of Kintail, chief of Clan Mackenzie, saved King Alexander III from a charging stag. And if you look on the bottle...
Sounds like a Will Ferrell movie description on Netflix.
And so in recognition of this noble act, the king granted the Mackenzie clan the right to use the 12-pointed royal stag emblem on their coat of arms. When the descendants of the clan became owners of the Dalmore distillery in 1867, the royal stag became the iconic logo that Dalmore has today. And if you look, and I counted, there's 12 the horns that the stag has. There's 12 of them, and so I just thought very cool that it goes back obviously that far, and I think they make some very good stuff. I'm curious what guys think about this. Like I said, this is my first time trying.
I think it's very tasty, very smooth.
It's drinkable. There's a nice little flavor to it.
It's not like biting you in the back of the throat too much.
Not
Very
at all.
Smooth.
I find it a little bit kind of
Dare I say medicine-y a bit?
no, there's nothing offensive about it. It's just a little bit
It's a little blah. Okay, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
So I didn't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
color anyone's opinion. I mean, I'm trying this just
I'm
like
kind
you
of
all.
enjoying it.
I like the flavor notes, but the delivery of them, I think it's very flat. Like
Yeah.
I'm 100% with Puba there.
Palates vary. Good.
Yeah,
Like,
amateur. Yeah.
There are notes in here that actually are very similar to notes in Macallan 12. Like there's a faint little bit of a chocolate flavor in this, like you get on the finish after the citrus that comes in Macallan. But Macallan, I feel like, just delivers it in such an elegant, robust way, where this just kind of falls flat, and then all you taste is the alcohol in the finish. And there was a high bar set because we've had the cigar malt before, which was absolutely outstanding. This isn't bad, but I'm left wanting more.
Is this 12 years aged or the 12? Yeah. Okay, so that's coincidental that the stag has 12 points on his horn and it's 12 years aged.
Correct.
Okay.
Total coincidence.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just okay for me. The other night, not to make comparisons, but the other night we had some of that Diablo, right?
Oh, so
the 12. But like at least it punches you in the face with sherry, and you're like, okay, well that's something that I can hang my hat on.
That's much more flavorful. That Abelard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're
It's
just kind
really
of like
delicious.
you're like, okay, like if you're in the mood for that, like that definitely hits the spot. And and there's a little bit of it's certainly a sweeter scotch, like almost than many that we didn't. The thing about scotch is so interesting is that and of course in Grinder's absence he could pontificate forever on this. Bless you, Grinder. But that's so interesting with Scotch, maybe as opposed to bourbon, and I could get beat up for this, who knows? But there's such a wide range from like Lagavulin all the way up, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which could be maybe call it Aberlour. I don't know. Where
Yeah,
it's
but
so
it's definitely
sherry.
on that.
But there's like it's just huge spectrum of like flavor and taste and things, which makes I think Scotch super super interesting, almost like wine. There's this big huge spectrum of where you can go with it, and this just kind of falls somewhere for me a little bit. Kind of, it doesn't jump out at you.
Yeah, I would if we were. So I like that you brought up the spectrum, right? And I think we've said many times that you have obviously Lagavulin on one end of that. You have, I think Aberlour is a great example of on the complete far opposite end. That's as sherry and sweet as possible. There's zero peat, smoke, any of that. And I think in the middle, you'd have like an Oban where you have some sweetness, but also some peat. And if you were to just take that one half of the spectrum going from Aberlour to Oban, I think in the middle of that would be Macallan. And that's also where I would put this. And that's what's so hard for me with this Scotch, because the first thing I think of is Macallan, because some of the flavor notes are similar and its profile is, and then Macallan just does it so much better. And the reason I actually think it's very fair to compare them, it's the exact same price as Macallan. I paid 65.
okay.
Oh, is that
Okay.
right? Wow.
It's also 65 a bottle.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not paying that for this.
No.
Me neither.
Never.
I started off. It didn't even smell very nice, and for some reason, I feel like a sharpness in the back of my throat. Which reminds me of the Macallan, the blue bottle. I don't know whether
Yeah.
you've tried that.
Yeah.
That
The
it's
double
somewhat
cask.
similar. Yeah, it's like not enjoying it as much as I thought I would.
I mean, given that, okay, now that it's the same price as Macallan, there's no way I would ever go for this.
Right.
No way.
Right. Like I would just I would just stock my locker or my bar with, if I was to go out and which I'm going to do soon at our new clubhouse, by the way, but having but for real, if we're going to talk Scotch for a minute and just what I like, I would buy a bottle of Talisker, I'd buy a bottle of Oban, I'd buy a bottle of Macallan, and I'd buy a bottle of Aberlour.
Right behind you.
Do you know what I mean?
Balvenie 12.
Right behind you.
And Balvenie.
And
And
Balvenie
Balvenie
12.
and
Yeah.
Balvenie Doublewood, yeah,
Doublewood
or a
for
Caribbean
sure.
cask, whatever,
Yeah.
depending on your budget.
And that's great spectrum, great range.
And
We're
Kirkland.
right behind you.
In Kirkland. Kirkland 12.
Yeah,
Can't
sure.
fit that in a locker, but
Sold.
Senator's shaking his head at me.
Yeah, but that covers like a nice broad range of Scotch. I'm sure that if Grinder was here, he would fill in the gaps. I'm
Well,
sure
the
that
gap
there's-
he would fill in. His
Lagavulin.
favorite is Lagavulin. Yeah.
Yeah, he loves
So
it.
everything that you named, are those all sherry casks?
Most of them are. So let's go through what Puba named. The Macallan
Macallan.
sherry we buy.
Right.
Aberlour is sherry. Well, actually, no. You know what's crazy? I don't know how this is possible. Aberlour is half bourbon, half sherry.
right.
Yeah,
So
it's
sherry.
the biggest sherry bomb you'll ever taste.
Right, yeah.
Balvenie, the Doublewood, it's half bourbon, half sherry. This we're drinking is half bourbon, half sherry. So I guess some, for whatever reason, the sherry just dominates a lot more, or they don't specify how long they've aged
Yeah.
the Scotch
That's a
in
good
each of
question.
those barrels.
That's a good question.
So for the more sherry forward ones, it's probably a lot more of that was aged in sherry than it was in a bourbon
It
barrel.
seems like all of you guys like the sherry cask.
It's hard not to.
I do.
Right,
I'm
because
sorry.
it's
I'm
not
even
to.
a snob about this. I don't want a Scotch that hasn't at some point touched an
Puba, did you
Oloroso
mention?
sherry barrel?
Sorry, did you mention Oban?
He did.
Yeah.
Is that's not aged in sherry? It's cask.
It could be partially. I'm going to look
could
it
be
up.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Maybe you're right.
So
I
I
don't
know
know.
the Balvenie 12 is 50% oak and 50% sherry.
Yeah. The double
The
wood. you're talking
double
about.
wood.
Double wood.
The
Yeah.
double
So I don't know. Maybe oak and sherry go better.
So is it just the Macallan that's like completely, it's all sherry?
Macallan is sherry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the black bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
black-
see, I knew it had to be because I
Oban
love
as well?
I love Oban. It's finished in sherry casks.
There you go.
Finished.
So if you were
Just
to go,
like any of these, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
most in
true.
one, and then they finish in another.
right. So if you were to go one step across the spectrum and go more peaty behind Talisker. So what would be this? What Scotch would that be to go
You
to
mean
more
less peaty or
Less or
more?
No,
more?
more peat.
But
More-
Lagavulin.
Well, would you jump right to Lagavulin? I don't know.
Or something in between?
Maybe there's something in between.
That's a-
Sorry,
that's a
so
grinder
you,
question.
You already
It's a
said Talisker.
It's a Talisker. So if Talisker's here on the peaty side,
So
you go Lagavulin.
you go
Next.
after Oban, you go Talisker, Then you go Lagavulin, and then by far at the far end is
It's
Lefroy.
Lefroy,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right, Lefroy, the green bottle.
Undrinkable.
Yeah.
It's like gasoline.
Yeah, that's
you
on
know,
the other end of the spectrum.
I've
yeah.
drank that like as a guest at someone's home. Like I had one night where I drank copious amounts of it, and like
I hope you stayed away from fire.
and after a while, I remember like being like, okay, like it's not undrinkable. It's just not my bag.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I had some very aged Lefroy one time at a Christmas party at a family house, and it was absolutely 1000% offensive in every single way. It was horrible,
Wow.
horrible. Now that's just my palate. I know it's amateur.
No.
It was horrible.
No,
and
it's
a
not.
Grinder's going to listen to this, and he's going to be very upset at me. It was horrible.
Well, I just want to go back to what Puba said because I'm not at all a Lefroy fan. The extent of Lefroy I enjoy is when I get like a really nice like bourbon mixed like cocktail, and they'll do like a Lefroy mist on the glass, and it gives it just a little smokiness. I love that. But to drink that stuff neat or straight, I'm not a fan of. But to Puba's point, most of you should remember when we went to that restaurant in town that Rooster introduced us to, where we love the owner. We've had many, many good nights there.
Good nights, bad nights.
Well, all of us have had good nights except when Gizmo met the sink there. But for the rest of us, if you recall, he brought out for us when we got there after they closed. He brought out a bottle of Lefroy.
And
It was like Lefroy 10 or 12,
and we drank
it.
We drank it.
And it was drinkable.
It was. That's true. That's
wasn't it
true.
Lagavulin?
No.
Lefroy.
I don't forget this stuff.
Yeah, it was
Are you,
Lefroy.
are you talking about the COVID night?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's that
Exactly.
night.
That wasn't
COVID night.
Lagavulin?
Absolutely
It
not.
was Lefroy.
Lefroy,
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because believe me, I
Yeah, I
remember
guess
when
it
I saw the
was.
bottle, I cringed and said, "Oh, geez, this is the best thing he's bringing out." But
But we
it was drinkable.
We took it down.
I guess it's more for winter, right? Is that when you were drinking more like peaty
A peatier,
scotches?
yeah.
yeah.
But I liked Puba's point that he made a point recently, and maybe Senator said something about this too. I don't know. But I certainly, I've been going to the Lagavulin a little bit more when I'm only able to have a drink and not a cigar.
Oh, that's
You know,
nice.
whereas
That's
I
nice.
think the sherry finish stuff pairs really well with the cigars. I think when I can't have one, I'm reaching for Lagavulin just to get that little bit of smoke.
Yeah, I give the example
You know?
after dinner when I can't have a cigar.
Yeah, exactly. That was you said
That's
that.
when I really pull and reach for a bottle of
Yeah.
Lagavulin because I get that smoky peat. I get the flavor notes of almost having a cigar with a scotch, and that it serves the perfect purpose.
Yeah, agreed.
Even Oban has a little bit of like slight hint of peatiness.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried Oddbag at all? Oddbag?
No,
No,
supposed
but
to be
that's
smoky as well.
That's
Maybe-
peatier. It's on the peatier end. Oh yeah.
It's in the peaty end. All right.
you'll have to try it.
Maybe we need to try a couple of peaty before the
So
winter.
we're about halfway through the Schwa Supreme right now. I am really impressed with this cigar. Really impressed.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's really, really great. Everybody's got a great burn line, right? Everybody burning okay?
Mine
Oh, yeah.
tunneled a little, and I had to correct it.
Okay.
But
I'm about to correct it, but I'm not complaining.
And the ash seems to be holding well as well. So
Yeah.
reasonable construction.
Flavor notes for me are very consistent, which I'm happy about because I really loved the flavor notes in the first half, and I'm
Yes.
getting the exact same as I keep smoking this.
Yep.
yeah, it's there's a reason why it's pretty well regarded as a cigar that it tastes really good. Now in the last third, will it present
Youth.
some youth?
Yeah.
Certainly, but that'll go away in time. And buying a box of these is always a smart move. if you
Agreed.
get your hand on them.
Yeah, keep them for a while.
Yeah.
Have you had the Regios, Puba?
Yeah.
How do you? What do you think about that compared to this one?
I like this better, but the Regios is a good cigar. It's a really good cigar. It's not divergent from this in terms of flavor profile. It's not like a divergent. It's not like that smoke is. Maybe you could call it a close cousin from my recollection. Now, I haven't smoked many of them. I bought a 5-pack of 5 of those, and they're good. But I think I like this better. They're really kind of nice.
Yeah,
I'm surprised for how difficult these are to find that they're only $13.50 a stick. You know, and I think I paid a little bit of a premium because I got it from a secondary source, but I mean,
Yeah.
this is really, 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 really nice for that price.
yeah, they do make a lot of regionals.
Yeah, they make a ton of
lot-
regionals.
A
Yeah,
lot of regionals. Yeah.
yeah.
Please don't contribute to the price being bid up.
Well, listen, the prices are going to go up in May again anyway, so it's just
What?
how it goes. Yeah, Habanos raises their prices every May. It'll probably be between 5 and 8%. So even what we're seeing right now on the prices being up with supply demand issues,
Has anyone?
they're only
had-
going to go up.
Sorry, has anyone had a like heavily aged box of these?
No.
I'm just curious what this.
18 was what I smoked.
Okay.
Of these, and it's you're getting the same. So like, if just picture this. It become it for what I noticed was it was sweeter, it was more complex, and just not stronger, richer, just richer in flavor. Just the presentation of everything is just amped up in terms of the like those flavors really just start to come through. It's just not quite as muddled. It's just like I'm not getting any ammonia right now. Maybe in the last third, I'm not getting any of that. I'm not tasting a ton of youth here, but with the age, it just pops like that flavor you got on the light. It just comes through more pronounced.
Yeah, like the flavors are deeper.
They
Deeper
are.
notes.
I gotta say, it
Yeah.
smokes like an older cigar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I don't think it's smoking terrible. It doesn't taste terrible,
Yeah,
terribly
smoking
young.
great.
No,
Yeah.
Smoking
if,
great.
if Gizmo
Fantastic.
never told us the year on this box, I don't think at this point
I
so
agree.
far anyone would have guessed 21.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's
I think
impressive.
Bam would have paid like 500 for this.
Oh
box.
yeah,
Yeah, I haven't.
He just
smo-
might.
that's not that's not bad, guys.
This is the only
That's for the
2021
18 left.
cigar. This is the only 2021 Habanos I've smoked.
Really?
You fucking snob.
See, Puba, that's how you're
you're
missing
an
out.
elitist, Pooba.
I'm not an elitist. we have a lot of cigars,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, you do.
And you have, I mean, you and Senator certainly have a lot of really nice age stuff.
You don't forget Connoisseur Corner over there.
Well,
Yeah.
none more than Rooster.
Yeah, I think this is really, really good. You know, it's funny. We were talking about supply and demand, and I know that there's dispute about this, especially when it comes from a retailer. But you know, just with firing up the market and driving sales. But I always reference Rob Iola with Friends of Habanos. He did an update the other day on supply with Habanos and worldwide shortages. And what he said from calling around to some of his friends worldwide, not just in, he's obviously in Australia, but talking to PCC and H&F and some other folks, I guess. He said right now that he thinks there's about an 80 million cigar worldwide shortage to completely get everybody back to where they were 2 years ago. And Habanos apparently is making somewhere around 6 million cigars a month. So his anticipation is that the shortage is going to last quite some time. Now, is that hype? Is that, who knows what it is? I mean, he seems to be pretty straightforward the way I read it, but, it seems like Cuba's definitely behind.
That's 80 million in dollar value or 80 million
Counts.
Sticks.
Count, yeah.
Yeah, 80 million sticks.
Who knows what the truth is?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm always skeptical of this because
I know that's why I prefaced it with that.
I just call bullshit at this point on all of it because when the pandemic hit, we heard the same thing. Then the first year into the pandemic, the same thing. The second year, we have all found what we're looking for. It may not be easy every time, but it's out there. I mean, stuff that shouldn't have no business popping up. I mean, somehow I was able to get a box of Partagas 898s recently. This stuff it's coming out.
Well, and when think about back, you're right. I tend to agree with you now. Is the shortage real? Yeah, there's a shortage. It's the degree of how acute that shortage actually is. But you couldn't find 898s 2 years ago to save your fucking life. You couldn't find a fucking box of Lucy's.
Yeah.
They were very difficult to find. Like,
It's true.
like you go back a couple of years ago, it was like they were very, and then all of a sudden they started to pop. So who knows? Sir Winston's were like not and then they just appear. Like, so these things appear out of nowhere. There's no real rhyme or reason. And I don't think even I would dare to say, I don't even think the people in the know exactly when. They may know earlier, but exactly when some of these things are going to actually come into the distribution channel.
The one thing I want to say that he made clear that I should have said is that there is no shortage at all of cured tobacco, of good tobacco available. It's just I think it's
The labor.
the labor issue.
Yeah.
And I think to go back to what Puba said about the black period, they're trying to avoid bringing inexperienced rollers in and then putting out bad product again. So they're trying to not compensate for the lack of supply with inexperienced rollers who are going to produce cigars that,
Now,
are unsmokable.
Does that have to do with the pandemic at all? And
I would think there's a combo of that. There's obviously economic stuff. A lot of people have left Cuba for other areas. I'm sure there's a variety of factors.
The great resignation.
Yeah.
But also the prices are starting to creep up.
Oh, it's not even. Yeah, I mean they're 20-25% above what they were. A box of D4s, guys, a year ago was $225. Now they're on sale, they're $290.
It's true.
So I mean, Mag 46s are, $325 now.
Yeah.
You used to get a Magnum 46 for the same price as a box of D4s, or even a little less. So they're never going to go down. We know that.
Right, and everything it relates back to anything that's being distributed on a boat, anything that's being distributed in a plane. We're just looking at, they're just higher costs that are just going to get passed down to the consumer no matter what. I mean, I don't even think it's a combination of factors that I think are just making everything more expensive these days, particularly stuff they think about how far around the world for a box of Cuban cigars needs to travel from Cuba go basically around the world to get to the United States of America.
And that's probably the fourth or fifth point, because it goes from Cuba to the regional distributor to a retailer to potentially a gray market
out the back door
person,
of a retailer
to a gray market to us.
To us, right.
Yeah.
So, all those standard, like we've discussed it before, a lot of those standard production sticks get moved out the back so they can get allocation for regionals and limitadas, which there's a huge market for. They want that allocation. They want to have their humidors filled with things. We have to keep in mind that over in Europe, smoking a D4 is like smoking whatever, like a Monte Cristo, fucking a Dominican Monte Cristo out of JR Cigars here.
Yeah.
It's not that big of it's not, so in the European market. So when they want a special cigar, they're going to go for a regional. They're going to go for a limitada. They're going to go, and then you bring Cohiba into the mix. They want allocation for the Cohiba special stuff. They got to move a lot of their regular production cigars to get allocation for that. At least that's my understanding. So, it is what it is.
It's so true. And I'm laughing to myself as you say that, because it's comical when you're in Europe. I mean, I've been in London where you can literally just walk up to a little newsstand and I've bought a D4. I mean, how imagine in the US being able to go up to a tiny little newsstand in Manhattan and just buy a D4 and smoke it. It's incredible.
We're getting Philly blunts at the newsstand.
That's exactly.
Like Monte Cristo, they're moving the Monte Cristo, stuff, some of it.
Yeah.
Like the 2 or whatever, they're moving that stuff. They're keeping the really, whatever the premium factory,
brands,
the master cases that are really the choice ones stay in those retailers, and then whatever they move out the back that maybe isn't they move out the back door.
So Pagoda, you were on holiday recently for quite some time. I know you went to a cigar store or two. What was the stock like in Mexico?
The stock was all right. The problem was some of them just didn't look original. There were some of them in boxes. But the funny thing was, right outside the store was a no smoking sign.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's happening. I think we are definitely becoming pariahs as a community.
Well, Rooster has talked about that in Canada, right? Going to Canada and going even into an LCDH, a licensed Habanos store.
I mean, that's Toronto, right?
Yeah.
So Toronto laws are like one of the worst. I mean, you can't even smoke a cigar inside an LCDH.
Wow.
inside or even like right outside, you can't. You have to be like 150 feet away from the store. It's
Wow.
insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's tough stuff. They're having some problems up there with liberty in general.
Enjoy.
And,
Enjoy.
And who if you ever, I'm sure that you guys in your circle of acquaintance have had the pleasure of meeting Canadians who are some of the best people you'll ever meet. And it's tough to see what's going on up there. Martial law, all these things that are happening. Who wants that? Great people.
And even going back to our lizard hobby, I mean, a cigar up there, if you buy a Partagas D4 up there, they literally put an additional, like, very plain, and it's just general tobacco laws. They'll put a very plain label over the Cuban issued label because they're afraid that the look of the label is going to attract people to smoke premium cigars more, and they have ridiculous. It's crazy.
It's like it's anti-cigar.
It is,
Well,
and
you get stuff out of Eastern Europe that has. I have a couple boxes where you've got somebody's face with like some sort of malignancy eating away at their entire mouth, and out of Eastern Europe, you go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
By the way, that's all duty free all over Asia. They have these weird, weird,
it's crazy.
images.
it's crazy.
Strange.
All right, boys, let's rate the Scotch pairing, the Dalmore 12. I think it's time to rate it. Is everybody ready to do that?
Yep.
Take another sip and give it a go. Bam Bam, you're always up first on the liquor rating.
I think I'm at a 6.
Okay.
I think 6 is good.
Okay.
I'm also at a 6.
I'm going to give it a 7. I don't hate it.
Yeah, it could easily be a 7.
Yeah,
It's
I'm going to go.
drinkable.
I'm going to go
There's- yeah,
7 on it.
yeah,
I'm going to go
it's fine.
7 on it.
it fell flat for me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to go with a 6. It was flat for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think same 6.
Okay.
6.2.
6.2 on the Dalmore 12. Now, we should have looked, but I don't remember. We didn't rate the Dalmore cigar. That's
We didn't
before
rate
we did
the-
the
yeah.
formal liquor
that-
rating.
I mean, if we had to
That
rate
would have been
that,
an 8 or a 9.
If we go
9.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm at a
I'd-
9.
I'd give it a 10.
Okay.
Really?
But
I'd give it
I'm at a
10.
9.
Well,
And I think everyone would here would be 9/10s.
yeah, I'd give it a 9 or a 10. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm in that range. I mean,
Yeah,
that was,
it was
a really
great.
super duper.
It
How
was-
much was that? Do we
spirit.
remember?
Oh,
It's
it's almost
expensive.
200 a bottle.
Yeah,
That's what I paid.
It's expensive. as
Wow.
hell.
Wow.
I mean, and the reason I'm a 10 on that, it's one of the most complex scotches I've ever had. I mean, if you go back to that episode, Poob and I are having this great commentary about 5% of it's aged in a Cabernet wine barrel, and you can taste it.
Yeah.
You
Puba,
can get the like
you
wine,
picked that
like,
up right away.
It's amazing.
That's a very good point. And looking back at it, that's very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
And
that's
neat.
good.
We stopped. Many of us were drinking that neat. We had a few glasses,
And
it was so smooth.
Because
Well, that
it has
tells
so
that
flavorful.
tells the whole story. You
And
know.
and because it has that Cabernet note, it's very shower worthy.
wine in the shower.
So we're coming into the last third here of the Schwa Supreme. What do you guys? It's picking up a little bit for me for sure.
In strength, I agree.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say it started medium, then got medium full, and now is closer to full.
Yeah, I agree.
I still enjoy it.
I'm enjoying it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Not getting any ammonia. Even I'm down to about an inch.
Actually, I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
I am stunned. I mean,
Surprising.
I'm really down to the end, and I haven't picked up any ammonia or anything that indicates that this is only a 2021 stick.
I hate to agree with you on that, but you're right.
Because let's be clear. I mean, when I told Pooba that I had acquired this box of Schwa Supreme and they were 21s, he was a little hesitant about smoking them because they were young, and I'd only had them a couple of weeks. But fortunately, they're working out okay.
I mean, does it taste like an aged cigar? No.
Sure, certainly.
But
not.
is it like presenting? I think that what it indicates here is that this will be very, very, very good.
a couple of years?
Very good in a couple of years.
Yeah.
2, 3 years, 4 years. This is going to be out. This is going to be knock your socks off.
It is, and I think the nice thing about this stick, we've talked about this before. It's nice that there are some Cubans that don't require a ton of age to
Yeah.
actually be really enjoyable. And there are some that require that, and you just got to tuck those away and not touch them for years. But this
Yeah.
is one of those that you can get young, pull out, and you can still
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
it, and
right.
it'll only
That's
get
right.
better, like Puba said.
You know, the one thing that I
Yeah.
didn't even think about, because we did talk about this, is the 2021 D4s. Remember, we all got a bunch of really young D4s. I feel like you blew through a lot of them.
I
Bam
did.
Bam.
I bought that package with you.
Yeah, and we all
And
had the same. I haven't
I
touched
have
them.
I have a
haven't
few
either.
left. They're still very good.
Yeah, I've heard everybody say that D4s and P2s from Partagas are smoking great 21s,
Absolutely. Across the board.
which is surprising. I mean, I bought a box and it's number 4 in my. I'm lucky. I have a bunch of boxes of them, but I haven't touched
would
them yet.
love
Did
a
you have one
box
of those
of-
21s?
I do. Yeah.
What about the 2022s?
Well, you're up first. You have to find
Yeah,
them.
you
for
have
us.
them all. Tell us, Bam.
Yeah, this doesn't have it. Also, I don't feel like this is like Lajero heavy. It's not one of these Lajero heavy cigars. So it's definitely a medium bodied cigar, which is going to just lend itself to smoking it earlier. You know,
Okay.
it just doesn't. I don't know about you guys, but I don't taste that kind of that donkey kick
No.
that you'd get. But I think maybe what it lacks in strength is the virtue, and what it delivers in flavor.
I think that's well said.
Yeah.
I
Agree.
think that's very well
Yeah.
said. Because I was anticipating getting down to the last third here, and it kind of getting that ammonia, little bit of a bite, and it's not doing that. The only thing that I'm noticing, as I think, is maybe I've hit it a little too hard, drawn a little too fast.
The heat.
That it's heating up a little bit on me, but I think that's my fault, not the fault of the cigar.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I've smoked this pretty quickly. I'm right down to the end, and I haven't had that happen.
Puba's a little bit behind us, but
Not far though.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's got that typical, like, you look at the ash, and it's just that white and black kind of, typical Cuban look and feel. It's a very pleasurable smoke, versatile.
I think worth pursuing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, this is making me want to try the Regios that you guys mentioned, the San Luis Reyes for sure, in this size.
Well, if Puba likes this one better, I don't want that one.
Well, no, it's very good, the Regios. Stop. It's all personal preference. I'm just saying, if I had to choose, I think I like this cigar better, but I need to smoke more of both, probably.
I think Reggio's has more floral notes.
I love
it's-
that.
But it's not like, it's lighter than this. Right, Puba?
Yeah.
I don't think it's got this kind of strength.
Yeah.
Unless, maybe
the-
one I
I-
had was a little bit older and this
That's
is
what
younger.
I had. I bought a
Yeah.
5-pack that had some age on it, but who knows? I mean, I haven't smoked enough of either. I just always, each time I smoked this, I said, "Oh, I really like it." I just really walked away with a really positive experience.
What's a little
with it.
different for me for this cigar is I pull the smoke in. I'm down to the last inch. And if you pull a lot of smoke in and let it curl in your mouth a bit, like you said, Senator, it does coat your mouth nicely. I'm still getting a bit of a sweet tone there, which I really love.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unique.
Yeah, it is.
It is really a unique.
Mhm.
It's mild. It's medium to mild. It's medium to me.
From the
It's
point
more
of
medium.
yeah, medium.
medium.
I don't
Medium
think there's a single point I would call this mild. That's just
Maybe
my
not
opinion.
mild, but medium.
Yeah, it's got
It's not medium.
strength.
It's medium, and then
I think it
it's-
starts medium and then ends medium full even.
Yeah, and from this point of view of strength, I agree. But flavor, from the point of view of the flavor profile, I think it's medium full. From the point of view of flavor,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
But do you guys think when you guys first lit this cigar,
It,
the flavors that were there,
like Senator said, it was a flavor bomb
right
off
so
the bat.
The last third, I'm not quite getting that same flavor notes that I was getting in the beginning.
This is true, but it's still quite nice.
It's different.
It's yeah.
So
Right.
I agree with you, Rooster, in that when you get down to the very, very end, it's not nearly as sweet as it starts or even as it grows as you get to the middle. It picks up a bit in strength, and I don't know that it's pepper. It's just it's different.
It's
I'm
unique,
getting
like
that
Puba
same
said.
that
There's
you
a
are.
little bit of a difference in the stick. I like it.
yeah, a good cigar.
Yeah.
You guys ready to rate this thing? Give it the formal lizard rating?
Yep.
Let's do
All
it.
right. Rooster, you're up.
So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay. Puba.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that tough on it because I think it's an 8 all day. I think that this is a really solid Cuban cigar that should be in. If you like Cuban cigars, I think it should be in every humidor. I like it. I'll give it an 8.
I totally agree. I think that, at the price point, obviously it's a little scarce, but if you can get your hands on some of these, I think any Cuban cigar smoker will enjoy them. I'm absolutely at an 8 as well.
I'm also exactly at an 8.
Yeah, I think I started off as a 9 because it was very, very good. I really enjoyed it for the first half. I think a strong 8.
Okay. Bam Bam.
Yeah, I think 8 is a perfect score. Perfect for this stick. No doubt.
Yeah, it's a really good cigar. Just
I'd go a
well-rounded.
9 to compensate for Rooster's score, but I'm sticking it in.
I think to me it started
no.
out like really great, but I'm not like too crazy about it. Like the last
Is it muddled
Last
for you?
third.
A little muddled?
muddled, like too much. Like I like the sweetness like that I was getting in the beginning. I wish I was getting that all the way through the cigar, but not towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give it.
I think
but
with
the-
age. this
Yeah,
one
that's what I'm saying. You
definitely
got to
has-
just recognize the potential.
Yeah, has a lot of potential.
And for me, it's an 8.
But I'm not
because it's-
rating it on the potential factor. I'm rating the cigar
As
of
now.
As of
As of
right
now,
now.
yeah.
Well, I guess if I
So-
had to do that, it's smoking like a 7 now, but it's an 8 really. I mean, the cigar, I've smoked these before. Just with a few years, you're right there. The last third it's an 8 for me.
Okay.
I mean, I think that it has merit. It's a good cigar.
I mean,
it's popular for a reason.
I'll say this. I think it's smoking like an 8 now, and with age it can be a 9
Easily.
even. Because if that last third is like the first 2/3, then I would probably give this a 9.
Right.
The only complaint I have, and this maybe I have to see how this develops with age to know if I could give it a 9. I don't like cigar, and this is just my palate. There's nothing wrong with cigars that are like this. I don't like cigars with a ton of cedar, like too much cedar. And what I noticed with this cigar is as soon as you immediately get the sweetness from it and some of that dried fruit, and then it's just a lot of cedar after that. And I don't love that. And I just compare it to like a D4 where on the finish on a D4, I don't get just a ton of cedar. Like that, like spice and cinnamon.
I
Like
get
that's
cinnamon.
what I get on the finish of a D4 where
Yeah.
this, it just finishes with just straight cedar. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a cigar that smokes like a ton of cedar is a lot of Romeo and Juliet Cubans. It's not what my palate enjoys, but I know and understand why plenty of guys do. So that's why just for me, for my score, that's what would ever potentially make it hard for it to be a 9. But if this changes with age and maybe I'm getting more of that sweetness even on the finish or more of that dried fruit on the finish and not just cedar at the end of it, that's really what it would come down to for me.
I would, yeah, and I think that if we try these again down the road,
Yeah.
that you're going to be very, very pleasantly surprised at how the cigar presents itself in terms of what you're looking for. A lot of potential.
What's
this is
our
very-
Yeah, what's
composite
the,
score?
7.8.
7.8.
Pretty good.
All right.
To recommend?
I think
Yeah,
that's a very fair
absolutely.
score in
Yeah.
its youth right now. I think that's a very fair score. And to Puba's point, I think in a year or two, I'd like to definitely try these again and see what they
Absolutely.
Yeah.
see what they taste like.
I think for the listener, it's definitely worth pursuing.
Those
Absolutely.
wrappers,
I'll be
those
going after
wrappers
these.
will get all nice and oily, and you look at this box in a year or two, and you're going to be like, "Ooh, these have changed."
Absolutely. So a strong recommend. Not strong. I guess a
recommend.
recommend. We'll call it a
Absolutely,
recommend.
it's a recommend.
Yeah,
I'll
no
recommend.
doubt. No doubt.
On the El Rey del Mundo Choix Supreme. And thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Keep smoking.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, loungelizardspod, P-O-D, that's loungelizardspod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.